Hi, fourth graders. This is your week 25, day 4 of reading warm-up corrections. Same as other days, if you have not yet done your day 4 warm-up for reading, please stop the video here, do that first, and then use this to correct your work. So, continuing from yesterday when we learned a little bit more about Mary Shelley, the writer and author of Frankenstein, classic monster tale. And as we learned in the last passage, considered the first science fiction novel. So a pretty cool step into a whole new genre, one of my very favorites, actually. So today on day 4, we are going to read a longer passage about the author Mary Shelley, and then we will answer some of those questions. And then I believe tomorrow, Mrs. Uppendahl will take over and teach you guys the day 5 correction stuff and a little bit of writing practice there. So let's get started. So again, reading about Mary Shelley, let's go. Mary Shelley was born on August 30th, 1797. Her mother died soon after she was born, so Mary was raised by her father, William. 4 years later, William married again. William's new wife, Mary Jane, had children of her own, so Mary grew up with 4 brothers and sisters. William was friends with many great scientists, poets, and writers. Mary grew up with books, poems, and ideas. Mary was also lucky in another way. At the time she was growing up, girls usually did not go to school. But William thought that girls should learn just the same way boys did. So Mary got a good education. One of William's friends was a poet. His name was Percy Shelley. Percy and Mary became friends and then fell in love. They got married when Mary was only 16. In the summer of 1816, Mary and Percy took a trip with some friends. The weather was bad, so the group had to stay inside. One day they decided to see who could write the best ghost story. Mary's idea for a story came to her in a dream. She would write a book about a man who wanted to create a new creature. But when he saw what he made, he realized he had gone too far. Mary's story was very scary. Everyone agreed that Mary's was the best ghost story. 2 years later, that story was made into a book called Frankenstein. The book became popular right away. At 18, Mary Shelley was a famous writer, only 18 years old, and she had written Frankenstein. That's pretty cool. Her book made people think a lot. It was also a good, scary story. Mary wrote other books too. She and Percy also had 2 children, Clara and William. After a few years, the family moved to Italy. There, Percy became a very famous poet. Sadly, Percy died in Italy. Mary went back to England with her children, and she died there in 1851. All right, let's see if we can use that information to answer some of these questions. Number 1 says, based on the first sentence, the reader can tell that this text is biographical in nature, autobiographical in nature, science fiction, or a scientific text on deserts. What? Definitely not D. This had nothing to do with scientific text on deserts. That is not the right answer. Science fiction we talked about yesterday, a fiction story about with scientific elements. And this passage we just read is not a story at all. This is like true and real information about Mary Shelley, right? So when we are sharing real information about a real life person, we consider this either a biography or an autobiography. Let's talk about the difference between those two real quick. A biography is a story written about a person, real story, like not fiction story, like information about a person. But what makes it a biography instead of autobiography is that it's written by somebody other than that person. So if I wrote that passage about Mary Shelley, then we'd call that a biography of her because I wrote it. I'm not Mary Shelley, but I wrote about her. So that's a biography. Somebody else writing about that person. Okay? An autobiography is still information about a person, but it's written by that person. So like if Mr. Otterholt wrote the story of his life himself, that would be an autobiography of Mr. Otterholt written by Mr. Otterholt. So autobiography written by the person that it's about. So I did not get the idea from reading this text that this was written by Mary Shelley. It's just about Mary Shelley. So I would say this is a biography. And so we'll select A. This was a biography. Okay, number 2, what is the purpose for reading this text? Why do we read this text? What are we supposed to get from it? Answer choices are to gain biographical knowledge of an author. Seems to fit pretty well. Is it to learn about the character of Frankenstein? No, it didn't really talk in detail about the character of Frankenstein. Is it just to entertain us? No, I think there's a little more to that. Oftentimes, fiction stories are more often for entertainment. Informational ones have a different little a goal in mind. So I don't think this is just to entertain us. Is it to entertain and to learn about Shelley Percy? Shelley Percy? I don't think so. I believe that should say Percy Shelley, right? Her husband. I don't think the focus of this was meant to be on her husband, though it did talk a little bit about him. Most likely he was in there a bit because he was important to her. He's a part of her life. So I would say the very best answer here is A, to gain biographical information, knowledge about an author, about Mary Shelley. So that's the answer I would choose, A. Number 3, Shelley wrote Frankenstein because she and her friends wanted to see who could write the best ghost story. Ooh, I remember reading that exactly like that in the text. That was right there. I am positive it's A, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to check the other answers first, just in case. Just good test-taking strategy. Check everything, even if you're pretty happy with one of those answers. So I'm like an A. What else did it say? She wrote Frankenstein because she wanted to make her father happy. No, she wanted to. She had many dreams and wanted to write about them. No, but I can see why they put that there because it did mention in the text that she had a dream that inspired her to write this story. Okay. And D, she wanted to make a new kind of creature, but realized she went too far. No, that's what happened in the story. This is about, like we said, A. That was the one that was right in the text. She wrote Frankenstein as her entry to the challenge from her and her friends who could write the scariest ghost story. I think she did a pretty good job. All right, number 4. Mary probably wrote with, this is an inference question. The text doesn't say it. We have to think about when she was alive, what time in history, and what they had for technologies back then. So what did she write with? Did she write on a computer in the early and mid 1800s? No, definitely not. No computers around yet. How about a typewriter? Typewriters take electricity. No electricity yet. No typewriters. How about a pen or a piece of chalk? Did they have pens? Well, I know they've been writing with pens like the old feather with ink for a long time. I'd say that a pen is quite a good possibility. A piece of chalk, I don't think she probably spent all of her time writing on a chalkboard. Potentially that could mean you lose a lot of your hard work too, right, if it gets erased. I believe she was writing with a pen. I'm going to go with that. So again, I had to infer that. The text doesn't say it. I had to kind of use my own background knowledge about this time in history when she was alive and what technologies they might have around back then. Okay, number 5. Why did Mary go to school? I remember reading the text that said that at that time in history, most girls did not go to school, but her father felt differently about that. Her father thought that she should go to school. He said or thought that girls deserved to have the same educations that boys did. And you know what? Mr. Otterholt agrees. Very much so. So A, father thought that she should go to school. And number 6, which do you think helped Mary to become a writer? Do we think that she and Percy went to Italy and that helped her to become a writer? I believe she's already a writer by the time they go to Italy, so I don't think that's the best answer. Her father thought that girls should learn just the same as boys. That's true. Does that fit with the question, which do you think helped her to become a writer? Possibly. I mean, going to school must have helped her become a stronger writer. I'm sure it did. I'm wondering about B. I'm going to keep looking. C says her father married again after 4 years. No, I don't think that makes her become a writer. She had 2 children, Clara and William. True, but not helping her become a writer. I think after all it was B. I wasn't so sure about it at first, but out of all the answers, that is the one that makes the most sense. What helped her to become a writer? Well, I think probably what helped her was the fact that she went to school and got that education. So that is the end of our day 4 of week 25 reading warm-ups. I hope you guys continue your hard work at home. I'll see you guys soon. Now, let me see if I can get off of here a little sooner than yesterday. Logging back out. Nope, no faster than yesterday. Hold on. Pop this one off. Oh, he's really struggling. Oh, there we go. Okay, bye, you guys.